press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
It's time now for our first session of the day, and we have some very experienced people to do the same. The topic is, let's discuss the importance of experiential marketing for kids. And to discuss the same, I would like to welcome on stage, in conversation with Ron Crasto, Vice President BBC Studios, who will be joined by Vineet Karnik, Business Head, Entertainment, Sports and Live Events, Group M ESP, Subhas Srinivasan Iyer, Vice President, Head Media Services, Godrej Consumer Products Limited, Albert Almeida, COO Live Entertainment, Book My Show, Saurabh Verma, CMO, Inox Leisure Limited. Subhas Srinivasan Iyer, Albert Almeida, and Saurabh Verma.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's quite a quiet auditorium here. If there's a response, it'll be great just to bring the energies up. Good morning, everyone. Great, sounds good. Sounds like we are in school, but it's great. Thank you, everyone, to be around here. I think it's a wonderful experience for all of us to meet for the first time. Talking about today's topic, the importance of experience for marketing for kids. I just need to start with a very small story. In mid-1980s, sorry about exploring my age here, we had this great campaign which came from Parleys, which was Gold Spot. Now, Gold Spot had actually tied up with the animated film Jungle Book, where we were told to collect crowns. So as a kid, we used to collect crowns, and in that crowns, if you're lucky, there was this image of Mowgli, Bagheera, Kaa, etc. characters, where we used to collect this as a scrapbook. So what really happened was, me and my friends used to always go next to the Kirana store, wait for the caps to come out so that we can actually quickly go and collect those caps and stick on the scrapbook. The end result was basically we used to get a full comic book of Jungle Book. And the excitement was so vivid at that time that it stayed in my memory for the next 30 years. So that was my first experience as a kid in getting experiential marketing for the first time. And today, this carries on in blogs, and whenever we have our school reunions or college reunions, we always talk about this. And everyone by today has kept that book. So I would like to have the similar experience with this panel today and would really like to understand how the market is moving. For the first question, Saurabh and to the rest of the team, how is kids content in the market and how viable it is? How is kids content in the market and how viable is it?
I'd like to start with talking about kids' content is that there's very little content which is available in the cinema space and the film space. The only content right now which is available is from Hollywood. And if you look at films like Lion King or Dr. Dolittle, I think the kids itself, just the group bookings of kids, whether it's schools, whether it's institution, contribute around 7 to 8% in a school in a cinema. So that means if it an average, it's a 250-seater auditorium, around 50-60,000 students just come, or school children or kids come in groups just to watch these films. Films like Frozen are watched again and again and again. Even the earlier Lion King, there's a demand for that. But unfortunately in India, the content is very, very less. So there is viability, there is a huge demand, but I guess it's not reaching the manufacturers. For an example, I mean, you gave an example of Gold Spot, and it's a memory for me too, though I'm not that old. But the thing is that when was the last time we saw a good Hindi kids film? And when we try to remember that, we would not remember too many options. When was the last time we saw a edutainment content which was playing in cinemas? So there's a huge demand, and even if when you go to an OTT platform, they're talking about Stranger Things, which is not a kids content. And the first thing they'll say is, "Arey yaar, ye to nahi chalta." Because what has happened is that the creative space somewhere is going with the myths that this works and this doesn't work. And that means a good song, a good colorful thing. But the kids are basically sidelined. And that's a sad thing. I don't even remember when was the last time a good kids book was popularized by the media. So there's a huge demand. But I guess the manufacturers, it's not reaching the manufacturers.
So to a larger extent, Albert, if I ask you this question, is content creators shying away to do kids content in India? Is it the revenue versus expectations which are stepping in? Or is it that the kids content, as in kids today, are too prone to see Hollywood content, which is now dubbed in many, many languages?
Well, first of all, I must say that we're sitting in a place where they've evangelized what it is to really do stuff for kids. And congratulations to Kidzania for what they're doing, because I think it's a phenomenal way to educate your kids about the future. I agree with your point that there's not enough content being created for kids, but whenever we've done stuff and collaborated with partners like Viacom, for example, on Peppa Pig, we've seen a huge demand for kids content, and we believe it's a very viable proposition because you have brands coming in and participating on the one hand, you have ticketing as a revenue on the other, there's a lot of food and beverage, merchandising, etc. So all of it makes for, I would say, a reasonably healthy P&L. I just think that there are not too many content creators who are putting their energies behind kids content, which is reflective of the fact that we don't see too much investment even in the cinema side or the live entertainment side. But whenever we've done stuff, whether it's Rob's Imaginarium, whether it's been Peppa Pig, whether it's been, we brought the Avengers station down and housed it at the Phoenix in Lower Parel. We actually did a school outreach program where we got about 50,000 kids. So every morning we would just run it as a kids program where kids could come in from schools and we would give them a healthy discount because you don't have to meet footfalls at that time. And it was a very successful program which moved then on to Bangalore for another couple of months. So I think there's a lot more that can be done because I keep comparing my childhood with my daughter's childhood, and I keep telling her, you don't value what you have. A tennis class, a swimming class. Right. In our times, we couldn't even ask our parents for something. You got what you got, and you accepted it. Right. And I think today we're in an affluent phase of our lives in India where you overcompensate your kids and give a lot more. So when I looked at those statistics in the presentation that went before, I just believe that there's a lot of money available there to invest in raising kids. And the onus is on us stakeholders to actually come together to say, can we create the right content? Can we aggregate the right partners to make it a viable, sustainable business?
So, Vineet, that leads to the next question. You meet a lot of brands, you meet a lot of advertisers. So, what's the scenario now, and what do you see? The times are changing, as you say, with this digital world. What do you see next? How do you envisage this is going to be the next big thing, if it is?
No, it's certainly the big thing, and nobody denies the fact that kids are a very, very important part of all our lives, professionally, personally, and socially. Having said that, from an advertising perspective, there are a lot of categories who we may want to believe are bullseye categories from a kid's point of view, but most of the global companies have a lot of compliance issues about talking to kids and talking to what age group. So we need to very sharply define what do you mean by kids. Okay? So that's one filter. Secondly, while we have gone the easy way by actually importing kids content and possibly telling our kids stories which are not Indian stories, but there are so much that we can do within India, within Indian mythology, which possibly has a richness in terms of storytelling and in terms of even values, which we have actually missed the bus. So I mean that's one thing which I agree with Saurabh and Albert both. The third thing is when we speak about content, we always think about the top 5 or maybe 10 cities in the country. Whether we speak about programming or whether we speak about IPs, we always look at the Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore. But what we don't realize is, I mean, the big cities will have a lot of multiple opportunities for kids. And if today, if we have to see, while gaming is quite big, and I saw the presentation earlier where we said that gaming is very big in the US. Yes, it is. But India is a very different market for gaming. India is a very mobile-first market. It's not a big screen market. Yeah. So from that standpoint, what's happening is today kids are going the easy route. Okay. We are showing the programs or a lot of content to kids on the mobile phone. So they are adopting to that culture more than anything else. So I think no sooner we think about a strategy which is programming linked and actually going into the BC markets, that's when we will actually broaden our horizon, and that will add up to your revenue models. So I think there is lots of work that needs to be done from a strategy standpoint in terms of what are we targeting and where are we going to get the top dollar from. And we need to think, I think, beyond the top 3 or 4 cities, which is over-indexed currently in India.
So, Shubha, if I ask you this question, you have large budgets in Godrej, and when you do your media plans and also based on your KRAs and KPIs, how much do you really look at markets which are skewed towards kids and kids products? Because everyone in this room agrees that kids are the biggest influencers, and they are now become the Gen X or Gen Z, as they say. How much do you really allocate those monies? Because it goes well, rather in experience, which shows that we go for a mass scale channels, we spend monies, and then we live a little for the kids-based channels put together. How can we change that paradigm? How can we make that shift? Mike?
So I'll answer this in 2 parts, Ron. It's a great question. Thank you for that. Now, if I were to look at it, the first part is about what do you do to first sharp target to that segment. Okay. Now that's the job that as a marketer one needs to be very clear on what you need to communicate and to which segment are you communicating. So if you actually look across our product portfolio, and I think this is true for any FMCG marketer, there are very clear segments which involve usage by the kid, usage for the kid, and where the kid may not be the direct decision maker, but has a very big role as an influencer. Now, that part definitely has a great weight in terms of how your communication is woven and the final communication. Now, I'll come to the second part, which is about what do you do with this communication, correct? There are 2 ways to look at it from a purely media planning perspective. That first you need to understand what is the environment in which you need to target this communication. Like I heard here about the content part, and somewhere while I agree a lot, today also I need to make another point on this front that today we are also looking at innumerable opportunities that the kid in the house has, right, in front of him or her when it comes to access to the types of content that they watch. Now, not necessary Indian content, and I agree with all of you that a lot needs to be done on the Indian content part. But if you actually go back to the Gold Spot example, I also have a copy of the Jungle Book that I have collected with the Gold Spot crowns.
Right.
That was not Indian content.
Yeah.
Correct? So you need to understand that a lot of content since the last so many decades has been non-Indian content. And non-Indian content is very prevalent today, not because of any other reason, but because of the kind of budgets involved in creating that content. So at this point, I'll come back to my targeting part, right? So we look at basically what is the level of, one is the basic viewership part, right? Which is done to death, and all of us know that more than 95% homes are on television are single TV homes. Now that brings us to what does the kid watch beyond TV? So what do they watch on TV? What do they watch outside TV? And that actually gives us the answer in terms of possible opportunities where you can target these kids. Now, again coming back to, I don't know how do I put it, but eventually it is ROI, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to ROI, what is that content which gets consumed and what gives you better opportunity in terms of a conversion? That's what we look at in a very pure term. But however, in terms of more opportunities, newer storylines, newer content, we experiment all the time and we keep learning. And I really look forward to a lot of regional, content for kids. I really see opportunity where, he touched upon the whole fact of there's a lot of mythology, there is a lot of local stories, there are a lot of local heroes.
Right.
There is so much of local inspiration, and somewhere all of us here need to tap into that instead of, looking for some outside inspiration. So.
Sorry, on that note, I have an elephant in the room question, okay? So on your behalf, and that question is to all of us, it's not only to us. So just to take the Gold Spot example forward, and I was just thinking, should I, shouldn't I? So I am just asking, right? So to me, it's also about engagement. Okay, while we are talking about content, so whether you're in front of a television screen or a mobile phone or a tablet, okay, you are eventually engaged in doing something, right, watching or whatever. I think the last three examples of the entire country, and I'm sure people in this forum also will agree. Outside of Gold Spot, I only remember two examples, and I'm happy to know more. Okay, one was the Thumbs Up campaign around the '83 World Cup. Okay, which engaged the country. I think everybody in the country would remember the Thumbs Up campaign that they did. We all collected those crowns, and there was very small gratification, not very expensive ones, but money can't buy gratifications. And second campaign I remember, I think around '98 World Cup, which was Britannia Ka World Cup Jao, okay, where the whole country was again engaged, more the younger lot, right? I don't remember a fourth example which actually engaged the entire country, and this was targeted to kids predominantly, which eventually went towards youth, and everybody eventually got engaged. So I think somewhere the job of content creators or IP creators is also towards not only getting eyeballs to the screen, but also making them do something for something which they believe is money can't buy or very good for them.
So that leads me to a question to the panel, to all of you.
Before that, I just want to know the fourth one. Do we remember anything which anybody? Which Maggie campaign? Yeah, sure. So, sure. Anything else? So eventually we are seeing 4, 5, 6 of them for a country as large as ours.
Yeah. Right.
No,
Okay.
but I completely agree with you. There are not more than 10 campaigns which people will remember. And that's been ages since this has ever happened.
So that leads me to a question to the panel. What are the challenges? And if there are challenges, yes, there are. What should be the area of focus? Al?
Well, I think first of all, we were just talking about screen, examples on screen, and I think I was at an interesting, we were launching our Great Indian Theatre Festival yesterday, and we had a panel of actors there, and the host asked them a question, how do you balance your time, because you have cinema as well as theatre. And I think the valid point that these guys made is that a lot of them said, I give 50% of my time to theatre, and I give it because when I'm on stage, the engagement that I have with my audience, my core audience, and the feedback I get, it's instant, it's immediate, it's very special, I put a disproportionate amount of value on that. And I think there are enough live examples, and I keep coming back to Kidzania, where I think the engagement that you get, it may be, if Kidzania was a phenomenon in B and C towns, in a smaller version, I think we'd be talking about it as being a phenomenon that's raising our kids well. So I believe that there's a lot that can be done to engage kids, to involve them, and as content people, as stakeholders, we need to be out there trying to, to break new ground. And I think we're doing it in bits and bobs. Like you rightly said, the West has invested so much. You look at Disney parks, for example.
Right.
I'm saying you have millions streaming in there because they've taken a lot of trouble to curate that experience, make it so super special, keep it fresh. And they constantly, it's not just the parks, right? It's the screens that drive people and vice versa. So I think there's a lot to be done. And I think for us out here in this room, we should be enthused that there's a lot of headroom and great opportunity for us.
Right. Saurabh?
So I'd like to start by saying that, we need to start doing what we tell the kids. There is a lot of amount of creative thinking we need to do to develop, market and exploit kids' content. Unfortunately, that's not happening because if I compare an Avengers to an Indian content, there are not too many options. If I compare a Shin Chan, I don't think it's an expensive product. I don't think it's been marketed that well. It's just got on to, the kids because somewhere there's a likability to the character and all the obscene things or all the stupid things it does. Kids just love that. But we lack those content, whether it's good or bad. I mean, there are not too many options. And whatever options we have, I think they've happened by fluke or they've happened by the fact that ek chal gaya usko bada banate gaye. But there are not too many. There are not more than 5 options like that. So in West, you create content, you pre-plan things behind it, you have a proper marketing machinery behind it. In India, we just create content and then see what happens. So the habit of spray and pray needs to go and we need to plan a little more better. The also other thing is that there is a huge gap between the commerce and the creative side. The creative wants to create content and there's no proper research in the commerce side. There's no proper, what is it that kids want. I think once that amalgamation happens and a right commerce and creative thing has happened, I think we can at least explore 20 good ideas which can come into the Indian market and maybe out of the 15 will fail. But the 5 which will work can actually become a base for spin-offs, sequels, series, things like that. And for that, if brands can also collaborate, it'll be great, but then somebody needs to plan it.
Vineet?
I think somewhere I also feel that what actually happened in the entertainment sector or in the sports industry, I think something like a private-public partnership is highly imperative at this stage from a kid's point of view. To Albert's point, if West has invested massively in the parks, I don't think we can do it without a government support. A right private-public partnership somewhere can create magic for us, which links back to tourism. It's not only about kids within Mumbai or a Delhi or a Bangalore or a Calcutta or a Hyderabad or a Chennai, but it can actually create a massive tourism opportunity for big cities, for people within the catchment areas or the states to travel and experiences. Because eventually, whether it's content or whether it is engagement, you are eventually offering an experience. So how are we going to be enhancing that experience is something which we need to think about. Without a doubt, there is a massive role we all can play. There is a massive headway, and we have only to gain from here on. But it's all about the right strategy, right mindsets coming together to make it actually working top dollars for all of us.
Shubha?
So I have just one very simple point. A lot of times people don't experiment because the failure sort of deters them, right? And you need to, in our Indian context, if I were to put, we always are quite eager and anxious about the ROI and immediate business returns. But if you actually look around all the content that we have, there are a lot of formats that exist in our particular, whether it is TV or shows or other formats, which actually involve a good dose of engagement by kids, talent shows, musicals, dance centered. And if you actually look at behavior, there is a lot of mass consumption that happens across the board which engages both the children and the parents. Now, apart from this, there are also these pure kids driven shows. I am a big believer of data and the way that we need to apply numbers and analytics in this space. So, my very simple submission is that small starts, small steps in this direction, where we look at patterns and numbers and we look at what is exactly working, that will actually safeguard you against a lot of these experimental takes that one could do. So somewhere, see, end of the day, any business, whether it is kids or content for grown-ups, it is serious business and there's a lot of stakes involved. To what extent do we engage with metrics and analytics, and in this time and age where everything is trackable, we make good use of that data and patterns and test and try and improve. That's what I feel is the need for the hour right now.
So that leads me to a question that in the past, every one of you have done one unique innovation and one case study. So in this forum, can each one of you share your innovation and your case study which can be really applied in today's scenario and can be applied in future scenario, where these were your takeaways while you did. So Vinit, can you share one of your cases which you have done so many things besides the massive Paytm deals which you did? So I actually wanted to understand what were those learnings you learned, and can this become a segue?
The kid space, of course.
Yeah. Can this be a segue for the kid space, or can be for the mass space, everything put together?
Okay, so very interesting thing we did, I think, about 8 to 10 years back. Okay, one of our advertising clients, GSK, they have this brand Horlicks, very popular brand. Okay, they had a variant called Chocolate Horlicks. Okay, the challenge was that Chocolate Horlicks was mostly consumed by kids. Okay, but in the month of summer, somewhere the sales of Chocolate Horlicks used to dip. Okay, for some reason. And when we actually looked at data and analytics in terms of why is it happening, is because most people like to consume chocolate Horlicks really, cold. Yeah. And some kind of data points drove that. I mean, in summer, in the chutti season, when we thought that people will consume more, it never used to get sold. Now, traditionally, if you see most of the big movie franchises, okay, they used to release movies in summer. Okay, your Ice Age or whatever, right? Superman, Spider-Man. I'm talking about 10 years back. So we actually, those days, 5 back-to-back years tied up with all these big franchises. Unfortunately or fortunately, they were all global franchises. None of them were Indian franchises. And we created this summer campaign for these kids every year for 5 years in a row. And suddenly we saw a very sharp growth in the sales figures year on year. Okay, the learning here was that if you can define your problem and the challenge sharply, and give a solution to the kids in their own way, in their own language, I think that's the target audience who really responds very, very well as compared to the other age groups. Yeah. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is kids as a universe are so tender. I mean, if you can talk to them in their own language, in their own tone, they will give you results better than any of the age groups.
Saurabh, what's yours?
So I work in Inox, and I'll take an example of that as only. So Inox is just like Kidzania, where you have 52 weeks and you have to fill all of them with as much as possible. And one traditional retail problem is that how do you fill in the weekdays? How do you fill in from Monday to Thursday? Because Friday to Sunday, people kind of come in, but weekdays and especially the morning shows are always a problem. And we used to have the school activation program, and we still have it. Where schools used to come in, but they always were gap weeks. So there are exams, there are things like that, exactly like what Vineet said. And we said, these are the time when schools don't come, and how many school children will come to a cinema again and again, because somewhere cinema and schools are not that this thing. So what we did was that we started a campaign for birthday parties, and it just says that create unforgettable memories. And the word unforgettable memories is something which we imbibed in parents. So if somebody celebrates a birthday, we put in a surprise and just very small delights, like a conversation on the screen or a surprise birthday cake or a joker or a magician in the cinema, has increased our occupancy to at least 10 to 15%. We've also been able to do a lot of stuff at times when the occupancies were lesser. And in a cinema, we don't give discounts. I mean, ticket prices don't get discounts, but yet there's a lot of traffic which has come to that. Also, there is a problem again of content. So cinema faces that frequently. So what we've done is we tied up with National Geographic. So we're getting their content to screen in cinemas. We've tied up with IMAX, where IMAX content is being screened in our IMAX cinemas. And Inox is the only one which has got 2 IMAX cinemas in Mumbai, so we take advantage of that, and other cities as well. So we have tried to do several things. One is alternate content. One is trying to tap kids through other routes like birthday parties, thinking of campaigns like Create Memories. And these are not directly targeting kids. These are actually targeting mothers and parents who say, hey, I saw that birthday happening in a cinema. Why don't I also plan something like that? And you have to keep on innovating and keep on ideating things so that it becomes interesting. You have the same auditorium, you have the same cubicle, but how do you make it thematically different is the challenge every 3 months, every 4 months. And last and not the least, we've introduced kids auditorium now. So we have one in Metro Inox and one in Malad. So that's something which we are trying to do, and I think that's helping the younger generation to come to cinemas.
That's fantastic. Shubha?
So I can relate the Goodnight example. Goodnight is a home insecticide, and we had launched this fabric roll-on. At that point in time, we had this tie-up with Chota Beam, and what we decided, see, there's a thematic that we had, which was obviously the core buyer of the product, the mother advocating about the usage, and also the kid in the thematic who applies that and is free to go out and play, because usually mosquito infestation is very high in the evening when kids go out and play. So this product, fabric roll-on, is especially a product which brings in the whole protection angle. When kids are out playing, you just apply 4 dots. Now that's where we realized that while you are talking to the mother and the family, how do you really bring in the whole engagement part? So we actually created a contextual film where Chota Beam and his friends are playing out, and while doing this whole game of badminton, they are bitten, and so in Chota Beam language they are attacked by a mosquito army. Correct?
Okay.
So this was wherever you had kids channels and wherever you had any kind of kids engagement activity, this film would lead that whole conversation for the younger audiences. So in a way what you're doing is you're actually getting into their zone, talking their language through a protagonist who's important in their lives. So that's one example that I can share.
In fact, I'd like to give a very weird example. There was a film which came called Hum Tum.
Yeah.
It was an adult film. It was about adult relationship, but because the icons were cartoon, and we created comics, and it brought in a lot of content, a lot of kids to this cinema and this thing. So I mean, the problem is that the content was not kids, but if you connect with animation or cartoons, I think it becomes a great campaign, and that's what happened with Goodnight. And I guess you've done 1,000 of those as well.
Al?
Yeah, so we've done a few things in the kids space, and I just want to take, it always comes back to commerce, right? Is it going to be a viable show, not going to be a viable show? And I think the important thing to know is that to make something viable in our live environment context, because I think as far as the engagement is concerned, I've seen it consistently, whether it was Avengers Station, Peppa Pig, or Rob's Imaginarium, which were 3 recent things that we've done in the kids space. The energy levels or the engagement that kids have in a live show is of a different magnitude. And that's why I went back to that theater example that I gave, where anything live stimulates kids a lot more. You see great involvement with the kids, the parents, etc. So, but coming back to the commerce behind it, we find that if I was to compare Rob's Imaginarium versus Peppa Pig, when you have a celebrity involved or you're paying for a person to be available live, then he's always evaluating his time of being here versus doing a show. Versus a Peppa Pig where they're characters, so it doesn't matter who's in that outfit. So it just brings down the cost side considerably, but the content is as engaging because you see young 3-year-old kids dancing in the aisles, mothers encouraging them to go, mothers dancing with them, etc. So I think it's about managing the economics of it because that's the thing that is stopping us in this country from actually investing in the future of our country. And we need to find ways of breaking those barriers. And I see in Peppa Pig now a model where we can now take it to B and C towns to make it, a phenomenon. And like I think my colleague who went there earlier said, it teaches you to speak English, teaches you to speak the Queen's English in a particular way. So parents attach a lot of value to that because as we know that we put a premium on English speaking, right, in this country.
Right.
So I believe that we need to find the right content, we need to find the right commerce models. I know for Peppa Pig, for example, when we did the shows in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, etc., the merchandise just flew off the shelves. So there was a huge revenue stream from merchandise besides ticketing and F&B, of course. And you attract the right brands because you suddenly find boutique brands who are health conscious saying, I want to be associated with this. And it just makes for a great commercial model where you get ticketing revenue, you get sponsors backing you, you get the F&B and you get the merchandise. And then we have, a sustainable kind of live experience model going out to the country.
See, what again Albert is talking about is about experiences, okay? And they themselves put together a fabulous property partnering with, I think, IMG around Christmas, the Wonderland. I think any one of you, if you would have visited Wonderland, I mean, I did it and it was fantastic. I mean, it was truly world class. Right from the entry to exit, the way they managed the food courts, the different rides, it was so professionally managed, and BMS did the entire operations management, right? I think it was fabulous. So again, I mean, India, if you create something like more Wonderlands, I mean, do 10 cities, 12 cities, you suddenly get scale, and obviously, I mean, the smaller towns get experiences of the bigger cities, and I'm sure they will pay for it. And India has never shied away from actually contributing towards greater experiences.
I'm glad you brought that up because in one of the big learnings for us in India is that if you keep the entry ticket access low, once they come in, they're spending. So in Wonderland, you paid a few hundreds to get in, but everything then was $100, $200. You want to play a little game of hoop, it costed you $200.
Albert, let me be very polite. Okay, so let me just tell you the reality, right? See, Wonderland was one of the most expensive properties I can imagine in Mumbai, right? It was in BKC, right in the middle of BKC. It was not cheap at all, but it was highly successful. My number, okay, and you can correct me, and my number can be off. I think anybody who would have bought a ticket and spent 2.5 hours in Wonderland would have easily spent upwards of $5,000. I promise you. And it is not cheap by any standards, right? But still, I think the number of people, Albert can tell you, it was fabulous. It was really very good.
Yeah, so just to belabor the point, I think while a lot of people came in there, the same people spent a hell of a lot of money. So the money that you collected from, from the experiences that they invested in, whether it was playing a game, consuming food, beverage, etc., was far greater than the ticketing income. So it just goes to show that you provide people a great experience, give them the right ticket size, they will spend money.
Also, one thing that I want to just add to what you're saying, that see, unlike the world of grown-ups, where word of mouth actually takes a lot of time, in the kids space, honestly, it spreads like wildfire.
Right.
Okay, one kid has a great experience and engagement with anything, an experience, a brand engagement, or a Wonderland, or any event. I think it just spreads like in less than 10 seconds. I'm exaggerating, but to get the gist of it. Now, in the world of grown-ups, as a marketer, word of mouth is so difficult to build. And it's a tough one to crack, the positive word of mouth. And that's actually a big opportunity, especially in the kids' content, any experience you want to create. You build something good and price it very reasonably, and like you said just now, that while there is that initial entry barrier, but once people are in, it will exponentially give you revenues.
Okay.
Your point is very valid. One kid has a good time, 10 other mothers have FOMO.
Okay, so quickly, since we have time constraint, one question particularly to each one of you. Saurabh, I have a question. You have a really interesting background and you've been worn many, many hats. So cinema is your favorite and you mentioned Hum Tum. Cinema is a medium. When will you see some good cinema around kids? Okay, there's a little, which I can remember. And just a little insights into it. Do you think a kids cinema is going to be the next big thing which is waiting to capture or waiting to be ignored?
So, I mean, kids cinema, which is kid films, I think they've always been in demand. And one of the few memories you have in films is Chota Chetan. And the last kids film I remember, maybe there's something later.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it was re-released in 3D. So, but then, Bhootnath
Yeah.
was another kids film. But technically that was not a kids film because when you see the content, it's not kiddie stuff. Stanley Ka Dabba. But
Yes.
the problem with films today is that the marketing has become an entry barrier. I have tried to create the myths of marketing that this is the way you market. You need minimum of 5 to 6 crores to market a film. A kids film does not go beyond 500 screens.
Right.
So that's the problem in creating a kids content. But having said that, 5 years back before, if you made a film set in Kanpur or in Indore, it used to be "Arey yaar kaun dekhne jayega? Let's set it up abroad." But today films like Badhaiyo and even the upcoming Shubh Mangal Savdhan, they're all based in small towns and people are accepting it. Not just in BNC centers, but also in the South Mumbai and Delhi and everywhere. So they created a demand and they broke a market and today it's become a trend. So somebody needs to step up and say, okay, let's plan a kids film.
Right.
Let's plan something which is from a kid's point of view and then understand what could be the exciting thing about kids. Mythologies have been done to death, but they've not been marketed well because every animation studio tried to do mythology, but somewhere down the line that became saturated and nobody was able to break that pattern.
Right.
If we are able to crack that space, I think, like I said, we need to work on both sides. One, what to create, and one, how to market and commercialize it. Today, that is missing because the people who are in the OTT space, they think that, ऐसा ही चलता है, यही होगा, whatever. So once that breaks and they say, let's create kids content, I think there's a huge demand. Right now, no OTT player wants to create kids content. They're not, or if they want to, the budgets are very, very minuscule. So the moment somebody steps up and says, let's take a risk, I think that's when a good thing is going to be created.
All right, so thank you very much. El, this is a question for you. Book My Show does many initiatives, as you mentioned, in terms of response. They have started ticketing, and also Buzz. Now in your space, how does the kids IP fare? Okay, and besides any other IP which can be sports or entertainment, are you guys seriously looking at developing an IP which is for BMS largely?
Yeah, so like you rightly said, we started off as a ticketing platform and today we've aggregated a phenomenal community. We have as many as 60 million monthly actives, 200 million visits a month. We sell 200 million tickets in a year, which is we're aggregating. In the last month, we sold 23 million tickets, which is largely movies and then all the non-movies skew. But we're committed to building content that caters to communities. And for us, one of the big communities is kids. And kids not looking at it as one size fits all. But like I said, Peppa Pig is that 2-3-year-old child. Avengers Station is a more senior 8th, 9th, 10th kind of thing where you teach them science through popular characters. Your Rob's Imaginarium sits nicely in between those. So we are actually looking at, collaborating with partners to build out content that would aggregate communities for us, which we believe is the future of our business because you hook them on when they're young, they get used to a particular experience and you can keep cross-selling, upselling them to better experiences. So For us, it's not, we don't have any biases on age, gender, geography, etc. We just want to create sustainable communities that will come back to invest and get experiences. And that's really the core.
Vinit, as Group M ESP, you see there is a good potential for IP in terms of monetization. And what's the next big thing in the ISP space which Group M ESP is really looking at? And what do you want to tap into?
So from a potential standpoint, for sure, I mean, there's
Yeah.
no debate on that, okay? But in my mind, I don't think the responsibility of scale up should rest with the advertising community alone. Even if you want, it won't happen, okay? So therefore, my solution for it to scale up is a very right private-public partnership, because that's the way to go. Private-public people come together, take positions. I mean, say a Geo Wonderland or your Chota Beam or whatever you may want to say, and that's when slowly and steadily, once you build it up, the advertising community warms up and they come to the party. I mean, take Kidzania as example. I mean, I was a part of the entire Kidzania story when the idea came in, when they wanted to come to India, when a lot of the big boys from Bollywood wanted to invest in Kidzania. And it's a slow burn. It started off slow, but now I'm glad to see a fabulous facility like that. It was a slow burn. It was not. This was not the Kidzania on day one.
Right.
It's built over a period of time, and now you see the kind of advertisers coming in. People, then you have to showcase value to them. So therefore, somebody will have to come and invest, show value, and then of course, a lot of the ecosystem will come to the party.
Right. Thank you. And Shubha, when it comes to targeting kids, okay, it's very sensitive, okay, and it's become a very paramount importance. Now, can you please share your thoughts when you are advertising, typically on a reality show, okay, which is often termed as very strenuous for kids, and little advertisers, a select bunch of advertisers have started shying away to advertise on the reality shows because of various rules. Do these rules apply for various brands, or do you think in future these brands will shy away from a kids reality show because of their current making? What's your take?
So I think very valid. I mean, as a brand, definitely you would sort of map out very clear no-nos and no-go areas as far as any show is concerned. For example, wherever you have kids communication, wherever there is a kids involvement as part of that business, you have to map out while chalking out your communication strategy and communication planning, and clearly demarcate zones which are a strict no. Now coming back to reality shows, now as a format in this country, they've existed for a lot of time. I agree there is a lot of awareness today, and there is a lot of debate around, how much is a push and how much is a strain on the kid. Now, I think each of us are answerable to that question as individuals, right? And the same rule applies to even participants. Now, it's also a lot of responsibility that content creators have at their hand, especially with heightened awareness in today's times. But at the same time, if you actually look at even kids' content in the movie genre, they are not very different from reality shows, aren't they? See, for centuries now, any entertainment has always had kids as part of it. Now, how much is the strain? What is the stress? What is the psychological impact on the kid who is at the center of that content creation? I think those parts need to be handled in a very mature and very scientific way. And we need to have very stringent laws, very specific, custom tailored laws which protect that child. Because see, you also look at the positive side of it. There is also a lot of opportunity being provided, a lot of platforms that have been created.
Right.
And end of the day, you look at a viewer who is also watching those shows as a family. Like I said, this is my favorite point, that end of the day, 95% homes are single TV homes. Right. And that's also a big reason why a lot of content today is tailored to cater to a home viewer, right? And at that time, these are also providing a lot of inspiration and possibilities. This is actually a lens to what is possible in this world as a child. So 10 years back, nobody would have even thought that, I could become a singer.
Right.
We know our whole orientation towards a STEM-based, system of education. Today, there is a lot of relaxed attitude by a lot of parents. They look at possibilities. They say, okay, fine. I realize this child can dance, this child can sing. You look at analogy on the sporting arena. You have a lot of sports that have opened up which were never a possibility 5 years back, right? Today there are kids who are getting properly coached to pursue a career as a kabaddi player, unheard of 10 years back. So somewhere there is a balance that you need to strike, as media people, as broadcasters, as owners, as content creators, and I think it's not a difficult one, but it's a tricky one.
So thank you very much. I think to sum up, there is a lot of need gap, be it on the live space, be it on the cinema space, be it in the engagement below the line space, and be it also on the above the line, and also brand interactions put together. Panel, I'm really so thank you for you give such great insights. And also we'd like to thank the sponsors, that's Wood Kids, Kidzania, Byju's and Godrej, and also the guys who have organized this, namely Siddharth and Ashish. Now I would like to throw open for a few questions, because I know we have really gone above our time. So if need be, we can ask very few questions so that we can move for the next panel. Okay, I guess there's no questions, so I think we should move on. Thank you so much.
Let's hear it for the wonderful panelists on stage, please. Before all of you leave, a token of appreciation from us, and to present the same, I would like to invite Franklin, founder and CTO of IWM Buzz. गाइस तालियां बजती रहनी चाहिए यार.